Hey, yo, it's Yogi, and I'm here with Kat, Kat Rose, Kat Rose, and of course you know her because she's all about the things that you want to know about. Some amazing astrology. One of my favorite things, and one of the things I reach out to her is her work on the diamond, and surely you know that. And if you don't, stick around because you'll know a lot more soon. And Kat is so sweet to come on the show. This little thing that we have going here is humble, but I've always been blessed with the most amazing guests, and this is absolutely no exception. Kat's an astrologer, an author, and an artist, and her fascination with astrology began as an extension of her interest in personality typology. She soon found out the study of the stars had much, much more to offer, and she has been learning as much as she can ever since. Kat now incorporates astrology into her work coaching creative introverts, helping artists, writers, musicians, and all kinds of creatives to better understand themselves, identify their calling, and share their work with the world. And of course, you can find out more about Kat's services at catroseastrology.com. We got the links down below, and I'll flash them through the banners and things as we go along. And of course, if you're joining us live, love to hear from you out in the chat room and say hey to the guests. Maybe she'd be open to some questions. I haven't actually asked her, but tell her there, and we'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, I really just got to know Kat just a couple days ago, and I'm already charmed. How you doing today, Kat?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, and it'd be great to hear from people out there in the internet land. It's always fun to be live somewhere.
Right, and I know someone dropped by already and said hello, and they're in the UK, and it's here in my time in the US. It's 9, and what time is it there?
Just after 3.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what time it is. There's always someone watching.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we just had the.
So, do you have a show?
Sorry, I think there's a bit of delay. So we'll. Yeah, we just had our clocks went back last weekend, and I don't think yours changed until this weekend. Is that right? There's
correct.
There's always this interesting gap, this strange week where there's a difference.
Yeah, in fact, I was really hoping to get the show before our time changed, because then I knew I'd completely mess it up, the timing. I'm glad that you kept it straight for your time. Thanks.
Yes, yeah, no worries. I hope that helped.
Are you messed up when it's daylight savings?
I like this one. I like when it goes back. When it goes forward, then I'm a little bit annoyed because I feel like I've lost an hour of my life, and that'll never get back until I get it back 6 months later. But you know, it's okay.
I kind of feel that way every day.
I'm always having lost an hour of my life, at least.
I certainly could make the most of every day a little more. And you know, I like astrology. I'm a Scorpio, and everybody who's looked at my chart has just been like, "Are you doing okay?"
One of those charts.
Yep. And so I know just a little bit about it, and there are all kinds of astrology and things. And what's your take on astrology? What's unique about what you do?
Yeah, well, I like that question. Okay, so just a little bit about how I got into it. I was a skeptic about astrology, like hardcore skeptic. 3 years ago? So it came about, like you mentioned in the intro, as an extension of my interest in personality typology, which to me, I thought that was like this scientific thing. The Myers-Briggs type indicator was, you know, like the ultimate guide. It would explain everything about me and about everyone else. And then I picked up a book. It was actually about the Enneagram, and that had a bit about astrology in it. And I remember thinking, whoa, what's astrology doing in here? Thinking that was this big departure from all of the kind of personality stuff that I knew. Then a friend said to me, well, actually, none of those things are particularly scientific if that's what you want to go by. So while this didn't put me off the personality type stuff, it kind of gave me permission to look into astrology, because realizing that none of this was scientific, I was like, well, it's a free for all. If I find something useful, then I'm going to use it. And that's when my sort of like beloved science kind of was put to the side. I definitely still pay attention to science, but I hold it more lightly now. And I started taking things like astrology more seriously. And whenever I don't know about you, but whenever I get interested in a topic, the first thing I do is I go to YouTube, I go to my podcast app, and I search for that topic. I mean, I guess it used to be like the library, but more recently it would be, digital media. And I found some great shows about astrology and just started educating myself on it, because I really found that even the basic, my sun sign, Aries, like even that spoke to me. So, and then realizing, oh wait, I have a moon sign, I have a Venus sign, and all of these other things. What it offered to me was something that was just really, really vast and expansive, and that was quite exciting. There are obviously different types of astrology, and for whatever reason, what resonated with me most, it's kind of like it was imprinted on me, was I guess you could refer to it as Hellenistic or traditional Western astrology. And this was because of the podcast I was listening to, the astrology podcast, which is like it will share a lot of different approaches to astrology, but there would definitely be an emphasis on this kind of revivalist Hellenistic traditional astrology approach. So and by that, what does that mean? Well, it means that, for example, Scorpio, as you mentioned, you're a Scorpio. The planet ruling Scorpio in the old system was Mars, because Pluto, like, people didn't know about Pluto yet. So right. Does that, that's kind of my approach. But I'm open to different approaches. It's just that's kind of imprinted on me.
Fascinating what you said right there, because I just had a nice little reading for my birthday, and it was by Solaris Blue Raven, and she had some fascinating things to say, and it was a gift. And but your head reminding me about the Mars influence on my personal chart, and thinking about Pluto, and I was wondering about that, and I think I actually call it, I've forgotten now, but I think I call it, is it Herman? Because I think the guy who actually found it, they called it Herman for a while.
You're thinking of Herschel.
Herschel, thank you.
That was Uranus. Yeah, Uranus used to be called Herschel, which is amazing. And we were talking about cats before the show, and if I have a pet, when I get a pet cat, it's going to be called Herschel, for sure.
That's perfect. Well, so much I know about astrology, not much, and I'm glad you're the expert. And as far as cats, I've got little Shaka here with me, and he came out to say hello to cats. So, what then did you mean about the Plutonian reference then?
Just that, yes, like I said, so Scorpio is ruled by Mars, not Pluto. Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, not Neptune. This is something, basically, when the modern planets were discovered, they were assigned signs. They were assigned signs of the zodiac. And Uranus was assigned Aquarius. Aquarius is actually, traditionally, it was ruled by Saturn. Does this make sense? Like, all of the signs have planetary rulers.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Go.
Sorry. Oh no. So like, one of the things about studying traditional astrology is that you're kind of, it's not that you're dismissing everything that happens in the recent decades, but you are, you're not emphasizing them. So when I think about the modern rulerships, just other different things that kind of came about in the more recent century, like the 20th century, that's not as emphasized.
What's your take on the other forms of astrology?
I think they're all valid. And yeah, I think for the most part, they're all valid. Time will tell. Like, let's say somebody comes up with a new theory. They're like, it's not just the moon has nodes, but all of the planets have nodes. That's quite a recent development. And only time will tell whether that, it holds any water. So why I like traditional astrology is because it's been around for long enough to say, that there's we can trust it, let's say. That said, because astrology for me isn't a science, it's a divinatory practice. It's a way of communicating for me with the divine. That's how I see astrology. So as long as you're using that system and you're not dedicated, what do I want to say, true to that system, then anything can work. In the same way that if you practice tarot and that's your it's like a closed system, if you start throwing in random playing cards on a Tuesday and then you go back to your other system on a Wednesday, it's not going to speak as loudly because you haven't been as consistent, let's say, with that system. So if somebody uses Jyotish or Vedic astrology, it's going to work. It's going to work for them because they're dedicated to that system. I've seen my chart in the sidereal zodiac, which is different from the tropical zodiac, and they both make sense. So in the sidereal one, I'm a Pisces, not an Aries, and I'm like, whoa, those are really different signs. But for whatever reason, somehow it works just as well. It just describes a different part of my character. Yeah.
Being what's true in the sky, something like, is that about right?
Say that again.
Or the star, it's based on the stars that are actually in the sky, or how is that different?
Yeah, exactly. Sidereal. So the sidereal zodiac is more closer pegged anyway, to the actual constellations and the positions of the constellations, which sounds really well, why wouldn't you use that one? Well, it's because the tropical zodiac is valid in that it describes more closely the seasons. It's a seasonal zodiac. So the equinoxes and the solstices, which I find very important, that they're just an important part of my life. And they're pegged to the ingress or the entrance of the sun into certain signs. So the sign of Cancer, when we have, this is when we have the summer solstice. The longest day of the year happens as the sun enters Cancer. And to me, that's significant. That means something. And so that's why I like the tropical zodiac. But I can also see a really good argument for the sidereal zodiac as well.
That's so funny that they actually do, complement one another, that they don't conflict.
Yeah, because they're just describing different parts of the sky and different ways of seeing the sky.
Well, boy, that brings up so many questions in my head. Well, I'll throw this out there and we'll come back to me, but I have another question to ask you. So the one to come back to is, I wondered if you've ever created a diamond astrologer for yourself. And the other thing was, how do you think alternate models of the universe or even our Earth fit in with astrology, whatever it is, the flat Earth or egg Earth or water space or or simulation phase or any of that stuff. How do you feel about that in relation to astrology?
Well, I don't know enough theories, but let's say take the flat Earth one. Well, that totally fits because it was founded by people who, as far as we know, believe the Earth was flat. Same with the fact that astrology is it's a geocentric model. So now that we, for the most part, believe that the Earth centers around the sun, well, that's a very different thing. And I've seen people do heliocentric or sun-centric astrology as well. And they get good results as well. And I think, again, it's if you're dedicated to that system, then I personally believe that will be your divinatory system. That will be your method of communicating with the divine. So it will work for you. Awesome. I'm not going to just start mixing that in because I don't think it's going to work for me. What other theories? I mean, because that's going to make me think. I mean, somebody asked the question to my teacher in recent months, what would happen if we went to Mars? If Elon takes us to Mars, what happens then? Will astrology change? It's Well, yeah,
Wow.
it's quite possible that you would come up with, again, you would do astrology maybe based on where you are in Mars. So like the Earth would be part of your like planetary gods, effectively, Gaia.
Never considered that.
Yeah. So that's a fun thing to play with. I mean, these are all concepts, and I don't see why they wouldn't work. I don't see why they wouldn't work. Yeah, that makes sense.
Wow, well, that's an maybe a next gen astrologer. There is Marsha. You
Definitely.
could probably start now.
I think
Wow.
so. Start investing in that.
Seriously, that blew my mind, and I thought that I really thought of a lot of out there things. That's amazing, and then the perspective about like where you're at, wherever we are, globe, plane, whatever it is. Like, does that then does it have an influence on your astrology and how that plays out based on if you were closer to say the born?
So where I am on Earth here, like
yeah.
Sorry,
that's a weird question. Does that make sense?
Wait, so yes, it does, because basically that's gonna affect your birth chart. Is this what you're saying? So the kind of astrology that I'm going to be doing in England versus if I went over to the States?
That's fair. But I was kind of asking more like, if you were in the States, would your playing out differently than if you were in the UK on the same day?
Like would this stuff happening to me play out differently?
Yeah.
Yes. And this is why a lot of people look into relocation astrology, or there are different ways of calling it astrocartography, but I think that's like trademarked. So I need to say trademark or something. But it's actually something that I've been looking at myself with my partner. We're thinking about moving to another part of the UK, and we're looking at like these lines. I'm not a locational astrologer. I don't know enough about the technique, but you can certainly look at certain patterns that suggest that a different part of the world, or even just your city, would be slightly better or slightly worse for you, based on your natal astrology and also where you're going. And thankfully we found like a tiny little spot of the UK which works for both of us, so like fingers crossed. But I personally haven't experimented a lot with it, but I've heard good things. I've even heard about people spending their birthday in a different part of the world to kind of like get their solar return chart. So the chart that was, that marks the return of their sun to their natal place, and that kind of is a snapshot of the year ahead. So let's say if you're in a city that's like better for you, or the chart is better for you that way, you could maybe get a better year out of it. I mean, that's like, it's a lot of effort, but I think that's something to experiment with.
That sounds awesome. I feel missed out on an entire life of alchemy.
Yeah, exactly. So like,
I guess you only got it a few years ago yourself, right? Is that what you said, that your interest is new?
Yeah, exactly. So this is a really it's a pretty recent interest of mine, but when I get into something, I get into it pretty hardcore. So it's been
I can tell. And I love how you you were saying how when you were looking into it, you just well, I kind of lost my train of thought there. Forgive me. Let's segue over then to the Daimon, and so how does that play in with astrology for you? The other question that I asked is, have you ever created a Daimon astrologer for yourself?
Like, so I don't even like, how would I do that? So like a Daimon.
I don't know. I just thought of it. We're talking like,
yeah, that's a cool idea. I think my Daimon is very supportive of my astrology, and there's a reason for that. I think everyone's Daimon is supportive of astrology. Okay, and part of that is, well, the way I understand the Daimon is that it's here as you can call it a spirit guide, but just a kind of guide to remind us of our destiny, basically what we're here to do, the plot line of our life. And what else does that than astrology? So one of the myths that what's that?
I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but so it's like a manifestation of the diamond. Then we'll define some terms here in a minute. But is that what you're saying, sort of?
I think the astrology is kind of like a map to our destiny. It's a map of fate and destiny, and fate and destiny are different, and I'll define those terms as well. Wow. And so the daimon is a kind of guide along that path. So we're both looking at this map. The daimon already knows the map, but us studying the map is going to be helpful for the daimon, because it's like we're remembering what we're here to do, and astrology helps with that. And the reason that's important to the daimon is there's this myth, it's called the myth of and it's in Plato's Republic. And to me it was just a story that I can't really describe it, but it certainly, I mean, I'll describe the tale, but I don't know why it hit me so much, but it did. And it's basically the story of a man who is killed on the battlefield and has a kind of post-death experience, and he comes back to tell the tale. And during that experience, he sees the kind of passageway of souls. So souls coming into Earth, coming out of Earth. And one of the things he sees is that the souls are all able to pick a life. They, it's like picking like scripts for themselves. And they're also, they either pick or they get assigned a daimon. Different people have different takes on that. I believe we pick a daimon. And the daimon's role is to remind us of that script, our plot line in life. But we forget it. So we've got something that remembers it, but often we're not paying attention to that thing, the daimon, and we've forgotten what we're meant to be doing. Sorry. But basically, astrology, just going back to that original thought, is that astrology is a way to kind of remember that path. And so to me, the daimon supports us in astrology.
Yeah, wow. Again, like, I mean, my mind, it starts going off in 1,000 directions every time you finish a sentence. It's awesome. And so before we define terms, you said something on the Ambite radio podcast recently about the created work is the creator. And something, did I get it right? And do I take that to mean that you sort of, if you're creating something, you sort of connect with that work through the help of your daimon, and then it sort of manifests? Or how do you mean that?
I mean, I don't remember what I said exactly, but what I'm thinking around with creativity in the daimon is that the daimon is what works through us when we're doing our best creative work. Does that mean that maybe we can create in order to connect with the daimon? I think so. I think that the more we, and I don't just mean create as in like paint pictures or even like write stories, anything that we do that feels inspired in that way, what I call like daimonic. Does it feel like you have to do the thing, or that just something like there's an itch you need to scratch, and it's that thing? And a lot of people go through life, struggling to figure that out. And I'm not pretending it's an easy thing. And there are different times in our life when it's easier than other times. Before we started recording, I was telling you about my skateboarding adventures this year, and for me, that's been, I think, the daimon moving through me. That it's been this weird thing that wasn't planned, but it's kind of like it feels very right and kind of like addictive. I mean, often daimon things can feel quite like addictive to us, and not always good for us either. So
interesting. Wow, that makes me feel like it's like sort of a genie magic carpet.
yeah, and that was the Roman word for daimon was genius or genie. Yes, they're like interesting.
I'm so connections right now, and the genius and the genius was a genie, right? It wasn't like he's a genius. It's like that comes from the genie, right?
Yeah, there are connections that you could make for sure.
I'd love for you to say what you know.
I'm confused on the whole thing, but from what I know, the jinn, this concept that's like pre-Islamic, goes way back. We don't even know how old the concept of the jinn are, but the jinn were kind of like, for the most part, I believe, malevolent spirits that could possess people. And I would say they have a lot more in common with the kind of general daimons, or like dark kind of daimons. And a lot of people think that there's like that the Roman genie comes from the word jinn. It doesn't. That they're actually like etymologically different. That said, if you're talking in terms of like, you know, the meanings that we assign to words, then why not put them all in the same camp? And in my book, I do mention the jinn. It's an important concept that kind of like goes along with the daimon. But again, different cultures had like different concepts of the daimon. The daimon and the Greek daimon and the Roman genie are very similar, though.
That was really well said. And yeah, totally, seriously. And I still think the idea of the genie in the bottle, right, or the in the bottle, I don't know. To me, that would say, to sort of put a this kind of gets touched on in your book, but to sort of have a safety valve, something, you know, like a right, like a be able to put that genie back when you need to.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And that's very true for the daimon. And I'm definitely fascinated in like cases of like famous artists and like, you know, troubled writers or musicians who maybe weren't able to put the lid back on the lamp. And, you know, and the daimon, just to emphasize for people, while I don't think our personal daimons are evil, I wouldn't say that they're purely good either. They're concerned with our plotline in life, our destiny. And if that means like doing some, you know, subjectively terrible things, that's what the daimon will lead us to do. And the point is that we discern. We can say no to the daimon. It might not make life easy for us. But for me, the more important thing with the daimon, or with destiny, let's say, with astrology, because our astrology chart, you could read your chart and be like, well, this looks like I could be a serial killer. You still have a choice. You don't have to manifest the chart in that way. And I think it's the same with our destiny, our plot line in life. We can meet it in the highest possible way. So
I have to laugh because my most recent reading that was just telling me, said you could be Jack the Ripper. I'm glad you're not.
Right, so prime example of somebody who has hopefully not manifested that particular. No, I love it.
Thankfully, I'm not evil as far as I know. Who knows? But
I feel like Jack the Ripper wouldn't have a cute kitty like you've got. So I think that's a good.
Thank you. Yeah, that's my alibi.
That's your alibi, exactly.
So I guess we should define some terms. We're like halfway through, and we haven't even talked about diamond stuff. I know a little bit. You're, you know so much, and you have made me like, since I heard you on that show, and not long ago, and I've only heard the first hour. I've listened to it several times on the way to sleep, and just again and again, and it's not because I'm a stalker or anything. It's because that it every time it may just kind of go deeper into that concept, and what it is for maybe a little bit different than where you're coming from, but my own idea and things has expanded. But why don't we talk about where you're coming from with the diamond? What exactly is it?
Yeah, so kind of the most important thing for me is to get across that it is something that is reminding us of our destiny. Mm-hmm. It can also be used as a way of basically personifying our destiny. It can be thought of as the same thing as destiny. And that was a really important thing. I think I mentioned it in that interview where I'd read a copy of the Republic and saw the myth of but instead of the word daimon, the word destiny was used.
Wow.
I was like, okay, that's really interesting. And I mentioned it a few minutes ago, but basically, fate and destiny are different. And this is also where astrology comes into play. So, fate could be thought of as just our lot in life, the kind of stuff that just happens to us, hair color, where you grew up, a freak accident, just the stuff that happens. Destiny is more, for me anyway, kind of what we do with that. It's the more meaningful path that we walk, both in spite of and because of our fate.
Wow. That gives a lot
And
of meaning to things. Thank you. Please go on.
yeah, and for me, like the easiest, it's really hard to kind of describe the concept, because I'm like not a philosopher and I don't really have the words for this. But a book that's really helpful for understanding this is The Soul's Code by James Hillman. And in my book, Discovering Your Personal Daimon, what I try to do is I show different astrology charts of like famous people, and I try to kind of make a case for how they were making destiny out of their fate. Joni Mitchell is a great example of somebody who, as a child, she had polio, and you can see this in her birth chart. But basically, she was restricted as a kid. She was bedbound for many either months or years. And then when she was like recovering and learning to play guitar, because she was weakened, she developed a kind of interesting guitar tuning to make it easier to play. So it's stuff like that where it's like, would she have become this great guitarist, musician without that experience? So that's how it's kind of like fate and destiny are intertwined. And, she didn't ask, she didn't choose to have the polio experience. That was her fate, but the destiny was, her becoming this great musician. So to me, Daimon, if you don't want to see the Daimon as like a cute, like furry, familiar companion, which I do actually, you can also see it as the kind of destiny that your life takes, the destiny that you choose for yourself based on your fate.
Wow. So fascinating, and I love it. And so the Daimon is kind of is the Daimon the mad, the guide, both part of yourself, or
yeah, that's the interesting thing. Like, and I don't have the answers to this. In the book, all I try to do is like give you options to chew on. So one of the ideas is that it is like a separate spirit entity that has its own reality, and kind of the sort of Platonic and like Neoplatonic idea would be that we exist in this earthly plane. You and I are here on Earth at the kind of like center of these spheres, and then let's say like the gods are like way out here and in this other sphere. I hope people can see that I'm like gesturing. The most outer sphere would be like the ultimate divinity, and then you'd get like lower gods. And then you'd get daimons kind of exist in between. So they're the kind of spirits that they aren't gods and they aren't humans. They exist in between these spaces. So that's one idea, that it's very much a separate thing from us. Different cultures have kind of seen... Yeah, go on.
No, please go ahead.
And then different cultures... and then different cultures have seen it in other ways as well. So you could kind of see it as a spirit soulmate, like the witch's familiar could have been a form of daimon, a kind of creature like a cat or a newt who might assist you in your magical workings. I've kind of put all of these ideas together because I think they all have daimonic qualities in that they're assisting us with our workings here on Earth. And then that final idea is more abstract, this idea that daimon is destiny, and people explore that. And that was one of the kind of main points I was trying to make in the book, was that you can choose how you see your daimon, but most people can get behind the idea of destiny, and so I think you can probably get behind the idea of daimon. That's for the skeptics.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Like you said, I believe you're skeptic, and I am. I mean, I'm really open-minded. I'm supernaturally inclined, and I'm etc. Woo, I embrace the woo. But yeah, I'm still skeptical, you know.
Yeah.
And I do find that it comes down to the individual meaning and things. When I first was introduced to the concept of diamond, it was I was like probably 13 or something, and I was doing martial arts. And the concept then was to sort of create an entity of sorts to hold well, it could be to hold like your strength so that you could call upon them and when you need to in time of need, or that you could maybe create one to take on your fears and things so that you could, you know, to. And but that, as far as I've gone with understanding that concept until you, and that's just amazing. All those different things all seem true.
Yeah, and I love what you were talking about as well. I really think that idea of the daimon as being something you can call on, I think that's important as well. And I think even without really thinking too hard about it, it's felt like that. It's kind of felt like a patron spirit guide, like a kind of something that, especially with my creative work and with like writing the book and doing other things, I definitely call on the daimon. And that's I actually didn't write about that in the book. I feel like that's just an instinctual thing. So that's really interesting that you bring that up.
So when you say instinctual, do you like a ritual to call upon them, or if it's too private, I understand.
No, that's fine. I wish I had a more like elaborate ritual practice, but I've never been great at sticking to stuff like that. I try to address it in the book, but like I the closest I have, I'm not sure, did I show it on Aeon Byte? But basically this little guy here is my I guess, what would you call it, like a daimon talisman kind of guy. And that's probably the closest. That and lighting a candle and saying, you know, dear daimon, help me with this, like a very simple prayer type thing. That's about as close as it gets for me.
I love that too, and the candle is something I've used since hearing that. But I love your little talisman.
It's nice, and again, people can. I encourage people to just to explore whatever, because I think the daimon is a very personal thing. Not like it doesn't have to be a private thing unless you want it to be, but personal in that it's specific to us. So it's part of why whenever I'm speaking about it, I want to make sure that I'm like including lots of ideas, and that I'm always wanting to hear other people's ideas about their daimons. I've heard all kinds of things, like people's like deceased mothers reincarnating as daimons and all kinds of things. So
going to ask that, interesting. So if you're not, if someone out there is maybe hearing this and they're just not in touch with their daimon, but they're like, ooh, that sounds cool. I think your book probably offers some practical ways to check that out, right?
Yeah. And you can come at it in different ways. So some people will really dig the astrological approach. For me, that was where I was particularly interested. I was like, oh, cool. Like, if I can use my birth chart as a way to understand my daimon better, I'm going to go hard on that. And I did that as much as I could. And then throughout that process, I was also throughout the process of writing the book, realizing that the thing that I was missing was more of an intuitive practice with that. I've had a handful of quite direct experiences with what I believe was my daimon through, I guess, just meditations. And then, yeah. And then other than that, I do describe some rituals based on other things that other people have had much more experience with. I'm not ever going to be somebody who's like, you know, you need to lock yourself away for 18 months, because that is another approach. There are definitely elaborate approaches that you can take to making contact with the daimon. So different people are going to have different ideas about this. Do I think you can... What's that?
That kind of sounds like it comes down to who's how to work, right? Knowing yourself and stuff, and like however you do that.
And again, it's a personal thing. Like, if you feel the need to go through a more elaborate process, then you probably do. It's you know, it's the daimon's probably saying to you, like, no, for you to get in touch with me, you do have to do this thing. I think we'll know. I definitely think for me, it's more It's not always like a big presence in my life. I'll admit that. And especially like since writing the book, I remember thinking, oh my God, I think my diamonds left me. Because like, yeah. And obviously it doesn't leave us, but there are times when it just feels more present, let's say. And at the same time, I'm like, okay, so like that's okay for now. I've just completed a big work with the Daimon. It's okay to have like a break. We can have some time to chill and then get back together.
Oh my gosh, that's really wild. So are you saying that perhaps like a creator who finds himself like the writer who has writer's block, or the golfer who suddenly has the yes and can't putt, that kind of thing, is that the Diamond just kind of taking a break or whatever? Or,
yeah, I
like,
think so. No, and I think the Daimon can, and this is something I do try to get into in the creative piece. I think all creatives, artists, yeah, like you said, golfers, anyone, they know that there are some days where like the spirit is there, some days where it's not. I've definitely felt this when skateboarding. Like I had this recently where I was like, I just suck today. I mean, it wasn't there. Like, and it's not a logical thing. You can't really justify it. It's like, no, I slept well. There's no reason why it should be like this. It's almost like the Daimon isn't acting through you that day. I certainly don't think it's ever totally gone, but I do think that there are times where, and maybe it has its reasons for that as well. I think it's okay. Like if you've just like won the World Series or like achieved something, maybe the Diamond's like, no, it's okay. You can just be right now. Sometimes when we're most on our path. Yeah. And I think sometimes that when we're most on our path is when that can feel the quietest. It's often the thing that, I don't know, like if you've ever like finished a big project and then felt like, well, what next?
Yep.
It's okay to be in that space. And I just think it's a natural thing. Like I'll always be wanting to start the next thing. And that's when the Diamond shows up again. It's like, you want it enough. I'm here. And sometimes it's more difficult.
We those days as an athlete or as a writer, I'm thinking even as if you're going to the gym, you have those days where you I suck, but you go anyway and you do it, or you practice your writing anyway and whatever, and it turns out really amazing. You're like, well, I'm glad I did that. You feel just better, right?
And I think that's like part of the relationship with the Daimon, that even when it doesn't feel like it's there, it's still important to show up and do the thing anyway. I guess it's like in any relationship, it's like, okay, things aren't like super great with us right now, but we're going to show up for each other anyway. I think that is definitely part of it. Yeah, show up even when the Daimon doesn't seem to have.
Like you water the plants whether or not they're blooming yet, right?
Yes. Yeah. No, exactly.
So how do you, as a creative person, we were talking earlier about, how, well, anybody who's creative driven by, and it's between, I guess, maybe, well, I don't know, is there, I guess, between creating or finding inspiration versus like if someone can find it, like they're just like, well, I'm going to be a painter and I'm just going to do that, and can they find their or is that a clear question?
Sorry, so because I think the sound was breaking up a little bit. So you're saying can you find the Daimon through your creative work? Was that?
Yeah, could you? Yeah, I guess if you're not sure about your diamond, but you're like you want to, you have a sense,
yeah,
and you feel like, well, I haven't come so far by doing what I've done, so I'm gonna try something new and get in touch with them that way.
Yeah,
is that a valid?
I definitely think it is, and that's definitely what I would like encourage like clients to do when we talk about this. I think the Daimon, well, I think that our diamonds all have like different natures. Some might require a different kind of approach than others. Some might want you to like just like double down or like commit to something, even if that thing isn't feeling so exciting, and then the rewards pay off further down the line. And in other cases, maybe the daimon is a bit more like unexpected. It's going to kind of like it wants something new, something spontaneous, something exciting, something a little bit off your usual thing. I mean, and that's kind of the tricky thing, and that's why I like the astrology piece, because to me it took the kind of the guesswork out of it. It made me there's a technique where you can find the strongest planet in your chart, and this is a technique that goes back nearly 2,000 years, where you find that planet, and that can speak to the spirit or the nature of your daimon. It isn't your daimon, but it can speak to it. So if you know a bit about the kind of natures or the personalities of the planets, that could kind of help you narrow it down. But other than like trial and error, that's usually going to be the approach. I mean, even this year, it's been an interesting thing. Like at the start of the year, I was like, okay, I want a practice that will feel like almost like, other than like my writing, what could I do that could feel like almost a date with the daimon? Like, how could I like show up to meet it regularly? And for me, I assumed, because it has been throughout all of my life, it would be like painting, drawing, making art. And while I have and always really enjoyed that, this year when I tried to use that as my kind of time with the daimon, it wasn't happening. Whereas the skateboarding, going back to that, felt more like what my daimon was asking me this year. And I only knew that from like a lot of trying to make the painting work, or trying to do the thing that I thought the daimon would want. So that really was like just a trial and error. Like I just had to try it out.
So many traditions talk about it in different ways, like the crazy wisdom of Buddhism and stuff. And it's just like that is so whimsical. And I love that you went with that. Especially if you're older than 18. It's hard on the body, as we were saying. Madfinger out there had a little comment. I wonder what you take of that. He says, I think the ego blocks connection with the other, separating us from our connection to all. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it really can. And if you think about the ego as like at its worst, it could be our sense of like how things should be, because we're out of fear. Like often the ego is acting from fear at its worst, and we know that's usually not a good thing. That's probably going to be in conflict with the daimon a lot of the time. If the daimon, for some, they might translate that as like the higher self, and this is a different like lens through which to view the daimon, is that it is actually part of you, just a higher part of you. I think the ego often is very fearful of taking those actions inspired by the higher self or the daimon. So it can certainly block that.
So is it, and forget if you kind of touched on this, but so like, could someone pick and choose like a daimon to identify with, and would that be a false thing to do?
How do you mean? Can you clarify that a little?
Well, I guess I guess I'm kind of blurring the daimon, because I'm thinking of maybe a type or something. Like someone was like, if they aspire to be like going like Tiger Woods or something, and so they're like, okay, my daimon is, or even a mythical figure or something like that. My daimon is Jupiter. Can they call that out, and then is that a valid thing, or is that kind of missing the point?
I think that is a valid thing. I would say like try that out, see if it fits, because the daimon, when you do certain practices, like let's say you enter a kind of a guided visualization. There's one that I like lay out in the book, and you could be surprised like about what comes up. I mean, I can't remember what book it was, but I did read a story about somebody who kind of wanted their daimon to be a dragon, like like cool animal, but it turned up as like I want to say Mickey Mouse or something, and they were really like offended that the daimon would turn up as this like whimsical character. But so
that's awesome.
I think Yeah, and I can imagine that for them, the Daimon wasn't literally Mickey Mouse, but it probably had the spirit of Mercury, a trickster who was kind of messing with them, and certainly, prodding their ego. I can totally imagine that that's what the Daimon was doing in that case. And I've definitely felt that sort of trickster element from my Daimon at times, and that's just part of it. And again, I think that the more you have those experiences, the more you can figure out the personality of your Daimon. So basically, it's just like anyone. It's like you can meet somebody and you can want them to be like, I don't know, whoever it is that you've got in mind that you'd like them to be. And then the more you get to know the person, you realize that actually they're not like that. And there's no amount of wishing that would make them so, because they're their own people. So yeah,
the relationship.
The more you, yeah.
So, are you familiar with the concept of like a servitor in magic practice, or
is that like something that will help you in your magical practice? What is?
Yeah, and yes, so that's then different than egregore. Yeah, I mean, than an egregore. That's funny. Than the Daimon.
Sorry, did you say? I thought you said servitor the first time.
I did, and I said egregore because it's been on my mind. But servitor, yes. It's funny that I said that. It's different than a Daimon then. An egregore for that.
Actually, I this is interesting. I wanted to touch on the egregore in the book. I think it was just one of the topics that like kind of got left on the cutting floor. But for me, as I understand it, it's, and I guess it is coming back to your question about, can you kind of create it yourself? Can you? Because to me, I understand the egregore to be something that you kind of create in your mind and then it sort of becomes real. I mean,
I get it.
Because maybe that's what I've done. Heck, maybe my experiences with the Daimon have been that. I prefer to think that the Daimon has its own reality and it came to this earth, or like it came on this journey with me before I incarnated. Like we were both like, okay, cool, let's team up and we'll do this. So for me to have the power to create it, that's not for me personally, but I don't see why not. And it's quite possible that that's what I've done, that my Daimon is an egregore. So
nice.
It's a really interesting idea, and I think whatever speaks to people works. But if you go back to just like the myths about the Daimons from the Greek perspective, it had its own reality in the first place. That said, I mean, I had a friend ask me, she was like, well, would the Daimon exist without you? Did maybe Miguel ask that? And I'm like, yeah, I guess not. I guess we both came here together. So I don't know. I think the Daimon, it's quite likely that the Daimon would only have just been assigned to somebody else if you decided not to come here and live a certain life. I mean, yeah.
Really? So like, wow, that.
And Daimons can like swap the responsibility of, like hanging out with us to another Daimon. That was one of the Neoplatonic beliefs, is that a Daimon could, pass the buck to another Daimon.
But so they do it. They don't just abandon. They have another Daimon to take the place. They're like, yeah, Charlie's over. I'm done with this guy.
Apparently so.
So Daimons are forever.
Exactly.
What about, so is it influenced by the relationship you create with it? Like if you're treating it like servitor or something like that, and you will obey me.
Right. Yeah.
Create space.
That was one of the points that I make in the book. I certainly think that if you're ignoring the Daimon and, not attending to it, it will make life more difficult for you, and it will hurt. And I've seen this. I mean, this is a really common thing. Somebody's like, really, really hate my job, and they don't do anything about it. Well, then the Daimon, it just increases. It increasingly gets worse. Maybe other things fall apart in their life. It makes itself known, I believe, but maybe not in such pleasant ways. I think the worst thing you can do is ignore it. If you try to, like boss it around, I just think, good luck with that. It's not gonna respond very kindly, unless, let's say, what you want to do aligns with it, well, I'm sure it would just be happy that you're, on track and doing what you agreed to do. But yeah, I definitely think treating it with respect is probably a wise thing.
I think that's pretty much true with everything in sort of an animist kind of way.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good rule.
If you find it going like dark in some way, can you kind of communicate with the diamond for answers, or do you just sort of start trying things like design process, that kind of thing?
I think in that case, yeah, at least trying to communicate with it and having, I think if you already have a regular communication practice, so one thing that I like to do is I like to write to my daimon. I've definitely, my challenges with it have been, and again, this is my take on it, but I'll wake up frequently. I'll go through phases where I'll wake up frequently at like 3, 4 a.m. Like a lot of people have that. I've kind of started to see that as, and I don't know if you might have your own like ways of getting to sleep, but one of the most surefire ways for me is to start writing to my daimon and say, like, why are you bugging me? It's 3 a.m. I want to go to sleep. What's up? And then like let it, like I'll write the answer that I'm kind of getting through. So that seems to be quite effective. I've definitely felt like that's been, and very early on when I was very first doing research with the daimon, it was an interesting year. I was traveling. I'd like kind of like left my life back home and was like, very much seeking and doing that whole like vagabondy thing. And I never experienced such anxiety as I did in that year. And I started to see it as this like little black dragon creature in my belly, which A, was a sort of personification of my anxiety, but B, it also started to become, because I was just learning about the daimon, to me it became my daimon in that time. And whenever it kind of like, it reared its little dragony head and like started like blazing fire or something, which would feel like anxiety to me, I was like, I would ask it, like, what do you want? What do you want from me? And while it never got me to do anything crazy, it helped just to ask those questions. So yeah, and again, for some people, their daimons will get them to do really terrible things. And that's the world we live in. That's happened for many, like that's been the start of human existence. And I think it's still up to us. And that was one of the points that I'm trying to make. It is still up to us how much say we have in that. This is where we go back to fate, and like at some point, maybe we are just fated to follow that to a bad end, and that's just life. No amount of like connecting with your personal daimon is going to stop people from doing terrible things, unfortunately. I'd like to think that my daimon is only ever serving like the highest good, not just for me, but for everyone around me. But equally, somebody who's like some serial killer, maybe that was what they had to do. I don't know. It's really hard for me to kind of go there, but
no, I get it from the dark. It's shadow. Yeah, that's true. I hear it. Yeah. So you it's so awesome because you just again it's like something, and like everybody, it seems like everybody go through that process, and maybe they do, whether they know or not, I don't know. But that seems like it'd be such a powerful way to walk your walk in the world, to be in touch with your daimon and have a good relationship.
Yeah, and ultimately that's what it is for me. And often when like people come, for the most part, when they get a birth chart and astrology reading with me, it's like, like that's mostly what people are asking. It's like, am I doing the right thing? Is this meant to be? And to me, that's the question of the daimon. It's like, more often than not, when I'm reading a chart, we'll figure out that somebody is actually manifesting things just as it's meant to be. And the difference in how they face that and feel about that is A, having the knowledge that actually, yes, these symbols and this ancient interpretive language is reflecting that back to me, that I am like doing as was always forecast. And B, they can then bring a sort of consciousness to it that is very much about acceptance and embracing that. I mean, this is why this picture, you can't see the top of it, but like it says, embrace your daimon, embrace your destiny.
Oh,
so, and to me, that is like a sort of my mantra around this, which is even the hard stuff, even the pain in the butt stuff, even the fact that I will probably always be a very, very subpar skater and I'll never be able to do the fancy things. That's okay. You can embrace your destiny and still have, maybe not always have fun, but like find some kind of meaning in that. And that's I think the biggest gift of the Daimon.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome too, because also mentioning to you before we recorded my focus on neurodiversity and creative people within that, and that just speaks right to that. I mean, that's just beautiful. I love it. You need to, and you are a coach, so I mean, I haven't touched on your services and stuff yet, and I'd like to. I'm so fascinated by everything that you're talking about, and our conversation is awesome, and it's just making me so like think that the active participation part of that is just like such a key element, right?
Yeah, and it's often like less about doing than it is about like being okay with something, and maybe not even okay with it, just I don't know. This is just for me, like you have to be in it. But when I learned about astrology, that was the effect it had on me. It was very much like a coming to terms with stuff, and through that finding a degree of acceptance with the way things are, and from there almost having like a sense of awe, like an awe that like this was always, meant to be.
And that's so cool because again, probably everybody, but neurodiverse types really struggle with that that need to live up to this image they have of themselves, right? And I know everybody does. Since I'm focused kind of on creatives and that process and stuff, it's like but even walking through your life every day, right? Like it's like there's come a point where you just like you're okay with what you're doing and let go of that image of perfection. But it's deeper than that, the way you're saying, I think.
Yeah, it's actually at its best, and again, I'm not like this every day at all, but at its best, it will be a kind of sense of awe in even just the annoyances of life and the challenges that we have.
Totally.
At its best. Not every day.
I mean, if you're maybe if everything was just right every day, you transcend this place.
Game over.
Game over. Charles Williamson says, hello from the Highlands of Scotland. I'm not sure what UK you are in.
Nice place to be, I imagine.
As I said, I'm in America. I've never had the pleasure of getting out to the UK, and of course, my ancestry is a lot from there. So I just wonder, like we were talking about earlier, if that location thing, that's so cool that you're doing location astrology, of just how my life would be different if I was out somewhere else there or somewhere else right now.
Yeah, it was funny in 2019. Well, exactly. It's an interesting thing to see. I mean, when I went traveling in 2019, thinking I thought I was gonna find a new place to live, but I ended up coming back to Brighton, where I am, the south of the UK, basically. And sometimes there is, I think, an element of like fate. Like you had to be there at that time, even if it's not the best place for you. It's not the funnest place for you. It's still what's meant to be. So anyway, I encourage people experimenting with relocation astrology. I'm definitely going to give it a go.
Wow. Well, now I'm thinking about like displacement in the world when you're just like suddenly you have to be somewhere else. That's another thing entirely. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
But I wonder if so myself, it looks like I'm suddenly going to be doing a little bit of traveling the first time in forever, and it's really came out of the blue. And that's probably imminent here within about a week or so. And So I'm fascinated by where that's going to take me, because it was completely out of, I wasn't thinking that way at all.
Fair enough. I'd quite like to be doing a bit of travel now, but still waiting on that.
Dancing. Diamonds on the soles of my shoes. What about, like, one thing about you, everything you're doing, it embraces all aspects, it seems, of what's magic in the world, and, like, so there's a written aspect of being able to look at, there's the verbal aspect, also then the words and the verbals, and how you do those things and find new realities, create new realities, and just the whole way that you're going about it seems very holistic. And do you have, like, a preferred thing that you take towards in your practice?
Sorry, say that last bit again. Do I have a what?
A preferred thing within your professional practice, like something you really love?
Oh, my preferred thing to do. I like teaching. Yeah, basically that's probably my favorite thing at the moment, if that makes sense. So,
nice.
Like, compiling what I know and then delivering it. And that I do through the book, I do it through my podcast, and I've done it through courses as well. But anything that feels like sharing, disseminating information is, like, probably my favorite thing. Yeah, and that can
Isn't
come
it
in many
cool?
forms.
It's such a feeling, and it's so important to the process, really, I think. Like, so tell me about your show a little bit, if you could. By the way, we're just a little over an hour, so I know you have to go kind of soon, just giving you a heads up.
Thank you. Yes,
please.
Yes, my I've had a podcast since I think I started in 2016, and that was originally called The Creative Introvert. So I was mostly helping people like myself who, like, were artists but hated talking about their work, and figuring out ways to do that and also understand ourselves better. And that's kind of evolved. I'm more speaking about astrology now, but equally to me, it's the same in that we're learning about ourselves, and it's just a bit broader. It's a bit more about, like, the things we've been talking about today, understanding this crazy dance of fate and destiny, and how to be in that. So that's kind of where the podcast is going at the moment. I really like YouTube now as a platform, because I think people, I don't know about you, but I just watch more things than I listen to things these days. So it seemed like the place to be. I'll probably play around with some other platforms as well, like Odyssey and stuff like that. But yeah, that's where we are. And I'll be doing some interviews next year, and it'd be fun to have a chat with you on the show at some point as well.
That'd be awesome. I'd love to. Thank you. It's a pleasure and a treat. And I'm sure that I mean, I do watch videos way more often, and there might be maybe a better platform than YouTube, and I'd love to hear of it when you do. Sometimes, my guests can kind of get a little controversial, and I love it. I let people say what they want, and that doesn't always have a long lifespan on YouTube. But beyond that, I just know that, as a creator, you have more longevity, or just other platforms for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
And that's actually something I know we don't have time for today, but I'd love to hear about your creative process and how you came to do what you're doing, practicality, because I think there's a lot of people out there who feel that they're like, I'd love to pass this message of mine on, but it's overwhelming and I don't know what to do. And then they see people like you who are doing it very well. I mean, you look at your website and it's so well done and so clear, and everything about your message is very clear, and it has value content, and it's your message, and it's just a great way, a great role model.
Thank you. Well, this has been years in the making, and a lot of getting it wrong. And that's I think if you're prepared to get it wrong, then you'll get there eventually. That's I'm gonna stick by that mantra.
That's awesome. Well said. And that's that's not what kept me hesitating, but I wonder about what was up with my relationship with my diamond, that I knew I should have been doing this a long time ago. Like 2013, I don't know, but whatever. Yet it's just starting. So I wonder.
And maybe you were meant to, like, maybe there was like a kind of, I don't know, I think about like the planet Saturn, and like it holds us back, and it holds us back for good reason. Yeah, and there are a bunch of things like recently, I don't know about you, but I've had this like, why didn't I invest in crypto like 5 years ago? It's like, well, that's okay. It's okay. It had to be that way, and I just have to live with that. So yeah, that's life.
Right. Just it's go with what that would be the fate part, or no, that'd be the fate part of your destiny, right?
Exactly. So we just need to meet it with this stoic acceptance.
Nice. Wow, Kat, I love it. Thank you so much for your time. I'm working on a show called Egregorian Dance or Egregorian Chanting.
Cool.
And it's all about how the way we speak and what we say and things can influence our reality, and to be mindful and just kind of do sort of exploration and stuff. And I bet you'd be fun to talk to on that level too.
That sounds amazing. I love the sound of that.
Nice. Well, I mean, I want to encourage people out to you, and of course, I've have your website up on the screen. Is there anything that you want to say about reaching out to you?
No, I just want to encourage people to check out this work, and I'm all ears about, if people want to share their stories about the daimon with me, then please do, because I just want to keep like researching this and gathering different stories from people. So yeah, you'll be able to reach out to me on the website as well.
That's really cool. I can't wait to see what you come up with, and it's fun. Thanks for doing what you do.
Thanks for having me on the show, and yeah, hopefully speak again soon.
For sure. I'll just say goodbye to you off camera, but to everyone else, thank you for dropping by, and I hope that you were as enchanted by Kat as I was. And go check her out at catroseastrology.com. And I'd love to hear your thoughts if you have any input on what you heard, or if you have any thoughts on the diamond. And I'd love to hear your stories too. So cheers, everyone. Thank you for being here. Take care.